Hey, welcome back to lecture 3. Hope you have been enjoying your assignments. This is going to introduce our third one, which is going to be about branching and iteration, just moving along with our concepts, our key concepts in C programming that you're going to continue using in other programming classes. So, what's branching and iteration? All right, so we're going to talk about 6 different kinds of iteration. So first, we're going to talk about 3 different decision-making constructs, and then we're going to talk about looping. So we're going to have 3 more of those. So first, the decision-making construct. So basically this is if this expression is true, if this is true, then do this. If not, then do this. So basically, it looks at a conditional, whether it's true and false. And if it's true, then it just does one thing. And if it's false, then it does the other thing. So the question colon conditional statement is just like a shortcut version of doing if else when you're using integers. And the switch statement, the switch case break statement, that's another way of doing conditionals. And that was actually one of my favorite things to use when I first started. Okay, so looping constructs, that's when you are basically going through a body of a program over and over again until the condition is false, okay? So we're going to go over that in much more detail here. Okay, so first we're talking about those decision-making constructs. This is the if-else statement. So basically you put in a condition. Let's say you want to say, is x less than 5? So if x is less than 5, that would mean, and let's say x is 3. Okay, so if x is 3, is x less than 5? Yes, that's true. So then you do the code for the if. But if x is 6, then it's not less than 5, so that would be false. So then you'd go to the else code, okay? So it's much easier when you look at it. Boom, right here, okay? So here we've got your, your include statement with your stdio because we're printing stuff out, and void main, and in here we initialize integer x. Oh, I forgot to put the int in front of x there. Don't do that, folks. You gotta declare your variable. I said I declared it, but I really didn't. So you have to declare it as an integer. And then I initialized it with 5. So if you even put int x on top, that will work. Well, anyhow, that will definitely come up when I'm doing the demo. So fret not, when we're doing the demos, we're gonna make sure everything works, okay? All right, so x equals 5. So when so if x is less than 10, the expression is true, right? So then it would go to the first statement under the if. So if x is less than 10, print statement is true. If it's not, statement is false. Okay, so this is an example of when the expression is true. So how does it look when the expression is false? So here we have x is equal to 5. So if x is greater than 10, which the expression is false, it will go straight here to the else. Printf statement is false, okay? All right, so our next one is that question colon conditional, right? So it's a shortcut way to do an if-else statement. It has 3 operands, okay? So expression 1, expression 2, and expression 3. So when you translate it here, so in the if clause, you've got this expression, so that will be expression 1. And then under the if expression 1 is true, then then expression 2 is what you go to. If expression 1 is false, then you go to expression 3. Okay. So let's see how it looks here. So we've got this code right here, okay? So the way it would look when you're doing a conditional statement would be, so we want to do a y equals. Actually, it would just be this right here. But we want to do a y equals, okay? So if x is greater than, or if x is less than 10, we want y to equal 10. If x is not less than 10, then we want y to equal 20. So then this is how you'd write it here in the conditional. I just added a little extra step there. So y is equal to, first you put expression 1 in there, okay? Then you put what expression 2 is and what expression 3 is. So if over here it was x is equal to 10, then you wouldn't need all this other stuff. It would just be this statement right here. Okay, but we want it to be y. I hope I made that clear. If not, just Google what a conditional statement looks like. Put the question in colon. You'll see how it looks without that y in it. Okay, so switch statement. This is my favorite, as I said before. So basically, the words that you're going to be using here are switch, case, and break. Okay, so first you start with your expression. Okay, so you'll be like switch expression. Okay, so so then if the answer is 1, case 1, then you say what it should say. Okay, code block, and then it will break out. Okay. If it's case 2, like if the answer is 2, then you'll perform the block of code for 2, and then same with 3, and then you'd go straight out of the program. Break is on the right side where you have the circle right here. Okay, so this can happen or this can happen. If it's neither, if it's not 1, 2, or 3, then it will go straight to default. So there's your default statement right there, and what happens with default. So this is how your program's going to look. You have the switch, the case, and the break. That is absolutely pertinent in this. You need all 3 of them, okay? So we're going to make, see right here, I declared it correctly. I declared it and I initialized it. Okay, that's how you want to do it. Switch x, okay? So let's say x is 1. If x is 1, it's going to print it is 1. If x is 2, then it's going to print it is 2. If x is 3, then it's going to print it is 3. So we had initialized it as 3, so of course it's going to go right here. If it was 4, it would go here. If it was 5, it would go here. If it was anything else, it would go right here to none of them. Okay. All right. So what is a loop? A loop is the execution of a series of statements until an end condition is met. Okay, so the condition can be at the beginning or at the end, and it would be like if x is less than or equal to 5 or something. So that would be like a condition. So then you would keep changing the value of x until it meets that condition, and that's when the loop ends. Okay, so x could start as 1, okay? And until x is equal to 5, and in the loop you keep changing the value of x. So until it is 5, the loop keeps going. For example, if x is equal to 1, a loop can keep adding 1 to it until it's equal to 5. So then how many times is that loop going to happen? 5 times. You always have to end it with a condition, or you'll end up with an infinite loop. And that's not fun because you can crash a system, you can, just end up with error codes, all kinds of stuff. You want your loop condition to end, and that is the biggest, that's like going to be those are usually where most of the mistakes happen with loops. It's not completed properly. So there are 3 kinds that we're going to talk about in this class. First, we're going to talk about the while loop, okay? When we initialize a while loop, there's a condition, okay? We start with the condition. While x is less than 5, and And if x is still less than 5, then you go to the statements, okay? And then you'd increment or decrement x, okay? And then you go back to the condition. Is x still less than 5? True. Okay, go back to the statement, increment it again. Just keep going until it's false. Is x less than 5? It's gone like 5 times from 1. Okay. X is 6. So it doesn't meet the condition anymore. It will go to false and it will end the program. That's it. You're out of the while loop. Okay, so here's an example. So I did the int main as well because I wanted to show you. Remember, when you have void main, you don't have to return anything, okay? Because the data type here is what is taken out of the function. So what is returned out of the function? So in this case, an int is returned. So you have to return some kind of int. So it serves absolutely no purpose right now, but just for the sake of just keeping this in mind, you can just return a 0 just to make it work. But you can also put void, and you don't even have to put that return 0 in there. All right. So I initialized x, int x is equal to 1. So while x is less than or equal to 4, print out x, then add 1 to x, okay? So x plus plus is the same as x equals x plus 1, okay? So x plus plus is the same as x equals x plus 1. Same with x minus minus. So x minus minus is x equals x minus 1. All right, so now in the body, you are A, printing out what x is, B, adding 1 to it, okay? So then it will go back into this loop. So how many times is it going to go through this loop? 4, right? So for the first time, it's going to print out 1, then it's going to do 2, then it's going to do 3, then it's going to do 4 because it's still less than or equal to 4. And then when it's 5, it's going to drop out of the while loop, go to return 0, and boom, you're out of the program. Okay, do while. The difference between do while and while is, let me show you. You go through the body of the loop, so that means you go through all those statements, and then you do your test expression. So that's when it checks your conditional. Okay, and then it goes through the body. So basically, in the while, your conditional is in the beginning, right? Okay, so it's condition and then statements. And in here, it's the statements and then the condition, okay? I guess I should have gotten a better photograph there to make it a little easier. So here, you'll see, okay? So do this while x is less than or equal to 4. So it's afterwards, all right? So, tomato, tomato, do it, the way you find fit. I added a few more things here to demonstrate some more stuff. When you're initializing anything, if they're both ints, you can just put a comma and then initialize x and sum. Sum is another variable that I'm putting in here to be the sum of all the x's as we blow through this condition, this loop, okay? So you can do int x comma y comma j comma I semicolon, and that's going to initialize 4 different variables, okay? So in this case, I initialized x and sum, all right? Simple, easy, okay. So do print x, so it will print x, and then it's going to create sum. So sum is just going to be the addition of x. So sum is basically just going to keep adding what x is to it. So at the end, we'll have the sum of what all the x's are. So we'll start with 1, and then sum didn't start with anything. So then sum is going to be 1, and then x is going to become 2. So then 2, and then we're going to add 2 to 1. So then it's going to be 3, and this is going to be 3. So it's going to be like that until x is equal to 4. I'm going to demo all these after I'm done with the presentation, so we can go through every single one of these. All right, so the last thing we're going to look at here, the last loop, is the for loop, okay? So for loop is different because it has 3 parts to it to start a conditional for the loop, okay? So the loop has 3 parts. It starts with the initialization statement, okay? So that's kind of like, if we look at the bottom here, initialization statement, okay? Test expression, and the update statement, okay? So the way that looks is, let's say initialization, int I is equal to 0. Okay, so I is equal to 0, that's your initialization statement. It only looks at that on the first loop, that's it. Okay, so let's make I equal to 0 here. Okay, so that basically initializes I. And that's only looked at once. The compiler already knows how for works. All right, so then the test expression. Okay, so is I less than or equal to 5? Well, when it first starts, it's 0. So yes, it is. So here we're going to add 1 to it. So then I is going to become 1. Okay, so it iterates the number of times the loop goes. So the first time it's going to be 0, then it's going to be 1, then it's going to be 2, then it's going to be 3. So I think the first time it goes through there, it doesn't do the I++. We'll find out in the demo. I'm suddenly blanking out. All right, so that's going to happen really soon. All right, so initialization statement. Okay, so that's going to be I is equal to 0. So let's test the expression. It's true, body for the loop, update statement. Keeps going until it's false, then it exits the loop. Here we go. So I just added a J in there just to, add more fun to this program here. All right, so void main int J is equal to 0. I should have initialized I as well. I should have made int I, comma, J is equal to 0. But we will go over what actually works while we're doing the demo, okay? All right, so for I is equal to 1, I is less than 5, I++. So J is just the sum of all the I's, and then we're going to print both I and J. So see how you can do that in printf? That's a little something else that we can do with printf. We can play around with that. So that's it. That's the end of the slideshow. So now I'm going to show you the demo. All right. So let's first pull up Sublime Text. Okay, this is from our last thing here. So let's open up a new one, new file. Okay, so let me save it as, we want to go to lab 3, and we can make it lab 3. We want it to be a C file, so C, want it to be lab3.c. Okay, save. All right, so now we've got lab3.c. Let's check it. We've got lab3.c. If it's got that little C there, that means it's lab3.c. And if you have Visual Studio, it's going to recognize that as a C file. Okay, so let's start with let me just open up our Cygwin as well. For all of you having problems with Cygwin, I'm sorry, it just seems like there's some blockage in installing it and downloading the GCC compiler. I hope we can work through that issue. I know that some people have actually just done it on a different computer and were able to get it working. It could be a firewall issue. It could be the way you're installing it. So there's different ways to install it when you're on there. When you download the program, make sure you don't hit run. Make sure you hit download. Save that exe and then run it. Okay. So Yeah. Okay. So it's in there. That is in LS for list. You can do dir or list. So dir does the same thing. They're just Unix commands. All right, so we've got that in there. So now let's write the program. All right, so for the first one, we're doing the while loop. So let's do this while. If else. Apologize. We're doing if else. Okay. So let's look at include stdio because we're going to do a lot of printf statements. So void main. So let's initialize x. Remember how I said you can put them together? I could have done int y comma x is equal to 5 or int x is equal to 5 comma y. And I'll show you that later. So if x is greater than 10, y is equal to 10. So what does that mean? Okay, so I like to hit tab, then expression is true. And what I want you to start doing now in this assignment is putting a little comment. So // no matter what you type in there, we'll always just kind of blank it out so it doesn't, so the compiler doesn't read that part. So then you can just kind of put your comments in. So I would like you to do that for this assignment. Put comments in line per line, telling me what it is. So here we're initializing x. Here we are declaring y. Here we have the, what is this? The condition, right? That's the conditional statement. Here, that's if the expression is true. So next, and that's got its own curly braces. So else also has its own curly braces. Else y is equal to 20. And let's print these out so you can see when we do the demo. So it's an integer, right? So we want to print out what y is. And then let's do the same thing here. We want to print out y. Y. I'm a little CD about making everything look perfect. So here, there. Okay. So there we've got our entire program, our if else. Void main, so I don't have to return anything. Okay, so let's make this compile. So save. And right here. So CSC -o, we want to call it lab3. Lab3.c. Yay, it compiled. Lab3. Okay, and we got 20 because the expression is false. Because this says x is greater than 10, and x is actually equal to 5. Okay, so let's make it true. Okay, so x is less than 10, x is equal to 5, so that makes the condition true. Now the condition is true. All right, so let's save that. Save. recompile it, run it, x is equal to 10, because now the condition is true. Okay? All right, so now, what's the next one we talk about? We talk about, oh, this is true and false. So now we're going to talk about that question, colon, conditional, okay? So now again, we've got, if x is less than 10, then we've got this expression. So this would be expression 1. Expression 1. This is expression 2. And this is expression 3. So how would we write that? Just write it right here. We would write it as, so we're talking about y, okay? So we're not saying x is equal to 10, so we want y is equal to x is less than 10, question mark, 10, colon, 20. Okay, so we want to, let's get rid of all this. Put that in there. All right, so now what do we have to do? Initialize into x and y. Let's make x equal to 5. Okay. All right. So, and let's print out what the resulting thing is. Don't forget your colon. F. All right, so it's an integer, so I have to change it to I. And let's print out what y is. Okay. So here we've got declare x and y. Here we have our conditional statement. And here print y. Okay. So if x is equal to 5, x is less than 10. So it's going to print out 10, right? So let's make this work. Save. Okay, and our answer is 10, right? So it works exactly the same way. And since we used numbers, we were able to do it like this, okay? All right, what's next? We've got our switch case break. Oh, this is fun, fun, fun. All right, let's get rid of all this. So we've got our void main. Now, let's declare our variables. We'll use, let's do the x equals 5 again. 5 and y. Well, I guess we don't need a y, do we? Okay, we're just going to do one variable here. So we're going to do the switch statement. So we're going to want to know what x is, okay? So in case it's 1, 2, or 3, okay? So that's how we're going to do it. So this goes in the curly braces. Like we got an extra curly brace. All right, so case 1, so if x is 1, then let's print it. Print x is 1. Okay, and then you do a break statement. That breaks you out of the program. Just clean it up a little here and put the break underneath. Yeah. Case 2. Print. And again. 2. Case 3. X is 3. And you always, in the switches, you always have default. So if it's not any of these, then it's going to default to this body right here. So in here, I'm going to have it say none of them. Okay, and then you have your break. All right. So curly brace, curly brace, curly brace, curly brace. So let's make this compile. All right. Well, I made x equals 5, so it's none of them. So let's make it one of these, 3. Save. So I'm hitting the up arrow to make it go back to the previous statements that I made. So I don't have to retype it. All right, x is 3. Yep, because case 3. All right. So why don't you research what else you can do with it besides, just putting 1, 2, 3 in there, all kinds of stuff. All right, so now we're done with these types. Now we're going to go into the loops, okay? So what's the first loop we're going to do? We're going to do the while loop, all right? So let's get rid of this. Okay, so let's do the while loop. So let's try this other one and just for giggles. All right. And x is equal 1 while x is less than or equal to 4. Curly braces. Print. Print what x is. X plus plus, so x can also be x plus 1, same thing. Okay, and then because we have the int there, we need to put in a return statement there. So return 0. Okay, so here we are declare, we're initializing it and declaring it. So initialize x condition. So x and increment. I'm just hitting tab after all of these because it's just easier for me. It just automatically goes, I think, like 8 spaces or something. Just makes things easy, and it's easy to organize your code where everything's just kind of on the same line. Okay, so return int name. Okay, so then we've got our code. So we'll see if these work. I always hold my breath when I'm compiling because you never know what's going to happen. Boom. All right. So do we know what our answer is going to be? It goes through the while. So while x is less than or equal to 4, it's going to print x and then add 1. So first it's going to print 1, then it's going to print 2, then it's going to print 3, then it's going to print 4, and then it's going to break out of the loop because at 5 it breaks out of the loop. And there we go, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. Okay, so next we've got our do while. Okay, so do while is, it does the statement, so here you put the do. Cut that out and paste it here. You have to put a semicolon at the end of it here. And so for the condition, we'd have do. So do this while x is less than or equal to 4. Let me add some more stuff to it just to make it extra special. So here we're going to say the sum of it all is equal to 1. So at the very end, we want to print out the sum. So while we're in the program, we're going to add sum plus equal x. So that calculates sum. Okay. But we don't want to print it out here because then it's just going to keep printing and it's not going to be the sum, obviously, because the sum is at the end of the loop. So we'll print it out after the while. So print sum. So let's just have it say sum equals so it makes more sense. So the way you can do that is sum equals and then add a space and then it will do your thing. And then we have to put sum here. You don't necessarily need this end of line here. So there. You understand how I did that? If not, just kind of slow it down, watch it again, and if you have more questions, you can always ask me. You can please use the team. Please, if you have questions, go in there. I want all of you guys to help each other because everybody just kind of runs into the same problems over and over again. And I think it would be cool if you guys started to help each other out. Okay, not going to purchase it because I'm cheap. All right, let's make this. Here. So this sum, and this is the conditional. And this is the start. Okay. Save. All right, so we had 1, 2, 3, and 4 like it did before. It just goes and loops around. And then it was calculating the sum throughout, and if you add 4 plus 3 plus 2 plus 1, it's 10. Okay? All right, so what's the next one here? For loop. That is our very last demo for today. You have learned a lot. This is so much. So be proud of yourself for getting through this as we are. Okay. All right, so let's start over with this one. Let's make it a void. Why overcomplicate things? All right. I'm going to use 2 variables here. Is equal to 0. Okay. And then in the for loop, you can initialize your I. So int I is equal to 0. I is less than 5. So it's still going to go through 4 loops. I plus. Yeah, let's make it start with 1. So it actually does go through 4 loops. Okay. see what happens here. I think it will start with 2. Okay. So 4, and then your body is in this J plus equal I. So we're creating a sum total again. So that will be sum of I. And print F. So let's print I and J. Okay, so here's another fun little trick here. So we're going to print and another one, comma, and then underline. Okay, so then we're going to print I and J. Okay, so that's how that works. And let's make it meaningful so it can say I is equal to and J is equal to. So we'll do I is equal to and J. Let's give it a space for J is equal to. Okay. All right, curly brace, everything looks good here. Everything's initialized. So are we going to start with I is equal to 1, or are we going to start with I is equal to 2? Let's see here. Oh, we start with I is equal to 1. So first it initializes this, okay, and then it looks at that, and then it just goes, okay? And then the second time around, it will start iterating the I. So we got I, J is 1, and then it adds 2 to 1, and then it adds, 3, 2, and 1, you know what I mean? So here is the sum right here. Interesting stuff. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this assignment. Please use the teams, talk to each other, help each other out, and I will see you next time.